So welcome, Chris, Sue,
Hello.
to the Red
Thank
Room.
you.
Thanks for coming.
Sure.
And I was curious about Bone Poets. Your band used to be called Gaia Consort, and that was the name for many years. And then you changed it to the Bone Poets Orchestra.
Right.
Can you tell me about the evolution of the name change?
I started to think that we needed a different name about a year before we changed the name, when it seemed like we were scaring people away a little bit in some ways. The the essence of the um, what was driving it was there was an interview we got several years before that said Gaia Consort for having a granola crunchy name like Gaia Consort, the band really rocks. I'm looking for ways to expand our audience, and so I wanted to name us something different, and didn't really quite know what we were about. We'd done a lot of things with Gaia Consort, and it felt like it had pretty much run its course. So we came up with Bone Poets, and that was a lengthy and funny and strange process. When I come up with ideas, I do actually tend to start sometimes with really visual ideas. And so I came up with, well, did I start with Year Zero? Maybe I started with Ghost Dance.
Ghost Dance.
I started with Ghost Dance. I thought Ghost Dance would be a really good band name, and then I liked the idea of Ghost Dance Orchestra. I did some looking around, and there was a band in the 80s that was a major label band called Ghost Dance. So then I really started to play with the Ghost Dance Orchestra idea. So I thought Bone Dance would be very cool. Well, there are lots of bands out in the world called Bone Dance. It's not that uncommon name. So I worked with that for a while, thought, well, maybe we could get by with calling it Bone Dance Orchestra. And none of these guys are doing a whole lot with Bone Dance. I liked bone in the name because it speaks of structure, and you can use all that Grateful Dead imagery, so it ties into the whole psychedelic thing.
And with the rockin' thing, you want to shake your bones.
Right,
So there's a fun element to it. There's that whole Day of the Dead thing.
And then there's the sexual innuendo, getting boned or boning, so that you got to have that in a name.
Yeah.
And
then one day you said
and I was
poets,
just
and it was like
talking to Ace, and the word poets came up, Bone Poets, and everybody grinned.
Yeah.
And so, and it was an immediate, oh, that's the word, that's the right thing. So, and we're kind of poetical in our approach, and
you're a poet.
And there it is. So, and we're an orchestra of Bone Poets.
Both of you, this is a question. As far as marketing is concerned, what you were just talking about with the last question and answer has a lot of marketing flavor to it. So, do you find that inhibits your creativity, or it helps propel it in a certain direction when you're thinking, okay, the name Bone Poets Orchestra will open us up to a larger market, and therefore I'm able to create music and imagery that will appeal to a larger audience, larger than the Gaia Consort audience. What are your thoughts on that?
There is I mean, anytime the name of a band serves all kinds of functions, but really primarily it's a marketing tool. When I started Gaia Consort, I knew that pagans would look at a name called Gaia Consort and know exactly what the band was going to be about, at least within a reasonably narrow band range. And that's really good because you want people to get excited about what's inside that package, or what does this band do with a name like Gaia Consort? They're going to speak to me. And Bone Poets Orchestra may or may not be as exact in the way it talks to people, but it's going to talk to people. It's an interesting name, I still think. I think it's going to attract people in
I
a
think
different
it's
way.
evocative. I think the idea is to be evocative. And I think there's an element of marketing to just kind of the idea of we want to reach an audience. And I think one of the things in terms of going back to the name change thing was that there were people who would really like the music, who would really like what we were doing already, that were put off by the name, that thought that we were going to be this folk band and we're like more rockin'. We do this, this kind of rock and roll, exciting dance thing, or that's what we wanted to be. And we were definitely moving in that direction, and a lot of the people that really liked folkier music were actually sort of drifting away from us and kind of saying, can't you play some more acoustic stuff? And it's like, well, that's sometimes, but that's not where we're going. Another piece of it too is that there's an element of the marketing that we do to ourselves. We're marketing to our own image. We're like, creating an image of what the band means to us with the name and what we wear and that sort of thing too. I remember, when we were in this sort of transitional phase, there was a long time there towards the end of the time that we were being Gaia Consort that Chris would write music. He would come up with ideas and he would say, but it's not a Gaia Consort song. And so he wouldn't work it up. He wouldn't actually finish the song or, he wouldn't, work on putting it into the album because he didn't feel like it fit. And so changing the name really did free him to write the music that was coming to him. So, some of it really is, it's for, what's out there, but it's maybe just being a little more honest.
It's internal
with
as well.
our internal process.
Tell me about your relationship with your audience. Often when I see Joan Baez giving a historical documentary of her life and her history, like on PBS, there's a refrain that I often hear, and I just recently saw something with her, and I heard the same refrain, and it kind of hurts. Although I'm not a big Joan Baez fan, it hurts me as a creative to hear her as another creative say, they don't know me. They have this projected image of me, but it's not me. The people who follow my music and have followed my music for many years have this expectation of me, but they don't know me. Would you say that your audience knows you, and what kind of relationship do you have with your audience?
That's a really interesting question.
Yeah. On one hand, I totally get what she's saying because the music is not me. The songs come from something that's going on inside my head at a specific point in my life. And between the time that that happens and the time that the song is actually finished in the writing, that can be years. And then you add to that the time between the song as it's written and the song as it's recorded, and there's probably another year. And then add to that the time that it takes for people to get it, to get the actual chattel, the piece of, the disc in their hand so they can put it in the machine and hear it. It could easily be 10 years between the initial idea coming across and the fixation of the idea when people hear the song. So if you project the ideas in my song onto me, you could be talking to, the 10-year-old Chris. So in a sense, and I try not to make the songs about me. It's hard not to do that because it's all being channeled through what I do. But I want the songs to be about stuff that matters to other people. I shouldn't matter to you. I'm just, unless we're sleeping together or something, you just really don't want to know the real me in some ways, But what should matter is what you get out of the song, and so I get where if Joan Baez has thousands of people who think that they relate to her as an individual. Well, they haven't had breakfast with her this morning, when you relate to people, it's like, how you doing this morning? Well, I woke up with a headache and I got to do this stuff. And how are you hanging? Oh, we're getting by. That's the stuff where you really relate to people.
There's also, people have a really intimate, and some audience members can have a really intimate relationship with the music that's very deep and really says something important about who they are and that sort of thing. And sometimes that's not what you were thinking when you wrote the song, but you want that to evoke those kinds of things. But you also kind of, as a performer, don't necessarily want people to equate their very intimate relationship with the song that you sang necessarily with you as a person. So it's a little scary to have a complete stranger come up to you and talk to you like you've had sex, because they've had sex to your song a lot. It's flattering, but it's a little scary. So I think that's part of where that comes from. And Chris this morning was sort of teasing me about, I don't really perceive myself as a professional here. I've been doing it for a long time and all that sort of thing. But my own perception of myself, I think, is very different from the perception that a number of people in our audience have of me. And that's a little intimidating and sometimes, and very flattering, extremely flattering. It's wonderful. But, I think that might be where she's trying to go, is that sometimes people do sort of create this sort of goddess or god up there that is this amazing person that's always perfect, and that's a lot to live up to. It's more, I want to be a real person rather than, oh, you don't know me. That's really, what I think. And our relationship to our audience, God, they're just amazing. They come and they give us so much. It's an amazing privilege to be able to go home with so many people on a disc and have them listen to you, and to hear people talk about, listening to your voice and having it really affect some part of their life or their self-image or their ideas or anything like that. That's more than most people get.
Right.
It's amazing.
Yeah, we've definitely had, in terms of what defines our success as an artist, I guarantee you it's not money. But the success that's involved, I've had more than one soldier send me a message. One guy in particular, said that he used Gaia circles as his alarm clock in Iraq. Every day, the first thing that he heard was something from Gaia circles, and it was the thing that kept him sane through an insane year in the most ridiculous kind of situation he could be in. That's as good as you get. I've had people say, your stuff got us through chemo. We had to drive 200 miles to the hospital 3 times a week or something, or twice a week, and we would put your tunes in the car, and it would get us through the ride. It kept us grounded. That's what you get. Everything else is absolutely ephemeral. It means nothing. If we're connecting with people and we're stirring those ideas in their heads, we're being way more intimate with them sometimes than you'd have if we had actual sex with them. You're letting me into your head, and I get to mess around with your perception and your metaphor of life. And if I'm really good and really lucky, I'm going to change the whole thing.
So it's a really complex relationship that you have with your audience. Because some of them are your lovers. Some of them are your family.
So, who actually writes the music? Is it a joint effort, or Chris, do you do the majority of it, and Chris or Sue, you interject, or how does that work out? The relationship as far as creation of music and words.
I write about 99.8% of things, and Sue often makes really good suggestions. I do.
You write all the tunes.
But I write all the
He
tunes.
does all the tunesmithing.
And then I'm the decider.
Yeah, he's the decider.
Really, with this band, with Bone Poets, we come into the studio, and I come from a jazz and rock and roll background where improvisation is a big part of what's going on, as well as we play to people's strengths in the band.
So with the name change from Gaia Consort to the Bone Poets Orchestra, what will the future being for the Bone Poets Orchestra?
Well, we're on the edge of finishing our first record, and I'm really happy about that. It's taken a really long time. The way we raise money is through this Adopt-A-Song program, which is how you basically pay more money to get your name in the liner notes and have tchotchkes associated with that, and different receive higher praise. The more money you put in, the more we praise you. And
you get to know that you made it happen. Because we wouldn't be able to do it without that kind of support.
Yeah, that's totally the way we've worked, and I think making a little more raucous noise, playing more rock and roll, and that's fun.
You did write a song for me to sing lead on.
I did. I wrote a song for you to sing.
And that was a conscious change for Bone Poets to actually have a little bit more female vocals going on, a little more Sue.
Only took me 20 years to write a song for Sue, but I finally did, and it's a good one. It works.
It's a good one for my
great.
voice. It makes me happy.
And where we go, I don't know. The future is wide open.
I think in that sense, we'll probably continue to, present our own shows. We like to four-wall it, which is what the term for it is, renting the room ourselves and bringing in our own gear and our own people, instead of going to a venue that would not pay us very much and do the promotion and whatnot themselves. So we'll probably continue to do that, and things like the St. Crispy Fest, which was wonderful, and the occasional, festivals and that sort of thing. Every once in a while, we'll get an opportunity that looks great, and that'll get us out of the area. But mostly, we'll probably continue to mostly play around the Seattle, Vancouver to Portland range.
And I sense the joy
thank you both for coming to the Red Room for this interview, and wish you the best with the Bone Poets Orchestra,
Thanks. You're welcome.
and much success.
It's been a
Yeah.
pleasure.
Yeah, it's definitely a pleasure.